Yeah. Okay. So thank you all very much once again for joining today. And we really appreciate your interest. And we are seeing, we are still receiving people, new people joining in. So to start, we wanted to sort of explain, for those especially who want interpretation in English or Spanish language, because the presentation today will be in 2 different languages. So if you leave the translation option, so this is the small icon on the bottom of your screen, which looks like the globe, and it says interpretation. So if you click there, you will see off English and Spanish. So if you put it on off, it will not take you to any interpretation. So if you are happy with both English and Spanish language, you can keep it off. But if you need support on translation from English to Spanish or Spanish to English, you will have to make sure that you choose appropriate language from this list, so that either you need English, then you need to switch to English. And if you need Spanish interpretation from English, then you need to make sure you click on Spanish. We have our colleagues who are, who are supporting with the interpreter, Hazel and Laura, I think. Yeah, so I think that is all we wanted to share. And then we wanted to also invite you. We will unmute all of us for one time and allow everyone to say hello in their own languages. So we will just take 20 seconds for that. So as soon as I say go, you can say hello in your own languages or the language you are comfortable in. So just to make sure that we hear everyone's voice before we go on. So 1, 2, 3. So go on.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. That was lovely hearing all of your voices and so many different languages. And that's what this community is all about. So we are coming from different contexts, different languages, but working on the same cause. So thank you all. It was lovely to hear your voice. And thanks for introducing and saying hello in your own languages. So what I'm doing now is I'm including in the chat box or link to something called Padlet, and on the screen you can see the instructions. So once you go, you go to that link, you will see a big screen with the map. So what you need to do there, and you will have some time to do that, is you click on the plus sign that appears on your right hand bottom side of the screen, and you will be asked to select a city or a country where you are from. And once you do that, then in the comment section of the same box that appears, you add your name, which organization you work for, if that is applicable, and your expectations from this online workshop today. So we will give some time for you to do that while I'll invite the moderator for the session today to start. And we will take a moment to go back and have a look on the map so that we can see where we all are joining in from in the map.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Lakshman, for that. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this great webinar. My name is Umberto Carollo. I am the co-chair of the Global MenEngage Alliance, and I'm also the executive director of White Ribbon, and I'm based in Toronto, Canada. So thank you all for taking the time for joining us. It was wonderful to hear all of your greetings and see all of your faces. And this is especially meaningful in these days where we're all sheltering at home, or most of us are. And so wonderful that we can all come together as a global community to talk about a very important topic, and given the context and the circumstances. So thank you again for joining. So I would like to begin by talking a little bit about the MenEngage Alliance and what we're all about, and then move on to introducing the speakers and proceeding with our program. So we have almost 2 hours of really great discussion and presentations, and we'll be making sure to give you plenty of opportunities to connect in small groups and continue the conversations. And please do continue this dialogue beyond this webinar and bring it to your local organizations and communities, because this is so important. It's important that we take these considerations and tools and lessons learned and good practices forward, and we do our best to try to implement them, because this work is needed and is important. So a little bit about the Global MenEngage Alliance. Our mission is to transform unequal power relations and patriarchal systems, and we do that by addressing masculinities. We build inclusive alliances at the local, regional, and the global level. Essentially, we work with men and boys through an intersectional feminist approach, and we do that by fostering joint actions in partnership with many groups and social movements, including, but especially in particular, with women's rights, gender, and diverse social justice movements. Next slide, please. So here we are. Here's our map. This is where our local and regional networks are located. We are a combination, a collective of 42 country networks spread out over 6 regional networks. And we have member organizations, over 700 of them, in fact, in 74 different countries around the world. So really great coalition with representation from all corners of the globe. So we are organizing this online workshop series in partnership with Abad from Lebanon, with WEM from Colombia, I believe, sorry, Costa Rica, with the Foundation for Innovative Social Development, with Madre, White Ribbon, and MenEngage Alliance. So thank you for these great organizations for coming together to organize this webinar series. Next slide, please. So why are we doing this? We are in the midst of an urgent health crisis around the globe, pandemic, the likes of which we've seen very few. So this is an urgent issue. We know that over 243 million women and girls are subjected to sexual and or physical violence perpetrated by an intimate partner over the past 12 months. This is from UN Women. So we've seen significant increases in men's use of violence against women and girls. During this time, we've seen, as you see in the slide, you know, between 25% to 30% in some of these countries, in France and in Cyprus, Argentina, and Singapore. And I know in my own country here in Canada, we have seen reports of increases anywhere between 20 to 30% in various jurisdictions around Canada. So no one is immune from this. This is a global problem that requires a global approach. So thank you for being part of that work. We know that violence is part of the social gender order. A lot of this violence obviously happens at home between partners, predominantly by men against their partners. We know that you know, in these conditions where we're all encouraged to stay at home, home is not always safe for so many women and children and folks of various genders and orientations. So increasingly, we need to pay attention to this and to put in solutions that address both the needs of survivors and also that prevent that violence from happening in the first place. So we want to spend some time today talking about the role of men in that and present some good practices and interesting innovative approaches to doing this work. So the responses so far have been good. I know in Canada in particular, our government has contributed significant funds to support, increased support to women's shelters. And that's so needed, it's so important, it's a priority. So in addition to that, we need to look, as I said earlier, at how do we prevent this from happening in the first place? How do we stop that violence? How do we put in the necessary supports for women and children and folks who are survivors of that violence to feel safe at home and in the community. So here we are. We're going to delve deeper into why this is happening, this reality, and what organizations are doing to mobilize and respond. We'll have some breakout sessions for you to share your own context and your actions and your own ideas. And then there will be opportunities for questions and comments as well. Next slide, please. So here's our speakers today. So I've introduced myself, Umberto Carollo from White Ribbon Canada and co-chair of the Global MenEngage Alliance. And if I may, I'll say a very brief few words about White Ribbon. We are an organization based in Toronto that started 2 years after the Montreal massacre in Canada, where 14 young women were murdered because the perpetrator felt that they didn't belong in an engineering school and he hated women. So as an organization, we have many campaigns, sexual violence prevention campaigns like Draw the Line, Neighbors, Friends, and Families, It Starts With You, Men and Quality. So I invite you to visit our website at whiteribbon.ca and follow us on Twitter at White Ribbon to learn more about our work. But I'll turn my attention now to our three speakers who you'll be hearing from in more detail. Ghida Anani from Abad in Lebanon, Samita Sugatinamala from the Foundation for Innovative Social Development in Sri Lanka, and Alvaro Campos from Instituto WEM in Costa Rica. So we're going to start with Ghida. And Ghida, are you ready? You may need to unmute your mic.
Yes.
Wonderful. Over to you, Ghida. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Humberto. Actually, I will try as well to use the video feature. With the internet connection limitation in Lebanon, it's not always very easy. Thank you so much for having me and for the continuous partnership with MenEngage on a global level, but also for the commitment to the agenda, the feminist agenda around the globe, and supporting and fostering women and girls' protection, and maybe more importantly, from all forms of discrimination and all forms of violence and abuse. Speaking on the reality of Lebanon, just allow me to give at the very beginning a snapshot of like the situation. Of course, Lebanon, before the lockdown, we have been struggling with a period of transition, the revolution and a banking crisis, and it was stopped by lately the COVID-19 pandemic, which has a lot of implications on women and girls, but it has also another definition when it comes to protection and safety, and what does it mean, this kind of lockdown for women in a system like Lebanon that I like to call it the system of no system. Since the beginning of the lockdown, we have been monitoring and following and supporting the beneficiaries from all over the country. And not only we can describe the situation as being increased use of violence as a mechanism in sense of communication on the level of the family, or as a medium to communicate a lot of insecurities happening, uncertainty, and diffusing stress and anger from the side of the male partner within the family, and also on the level of parents toward the kids, and sometimes mothers toward their daughters. But it also reached to a level of having many incidents of femicide, like murder of women. In only 2 months, we have been recording more than 12 cases where women have been killed by a domestic violence incident, and or also sometimes by for unclear reason. Yeah, and it's under investigation. And also the increased number of women calling the various helplines in the country managed by various civil society organizations. To note that Lebanon, as many countries in the MENA region, we lack accurate data and statistics. We don't even know accurately the size of the population, like how many people are there in this country. Hence, when it comes to accuracy in having exact number of the magnitude of the problem, how much it amplified, it's really very hard to get national statistics. However, we rely a lot on the data gathered by women organizations providing services for survivors, comparatively as well to the numbers recorded by the police. So in a nutshell, we can definitely say that during this period of lockdown, already we overpassed the
We cannot hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah. Hello? Yeah. So
We can hear you now, Gita. Go ahead.
sorry. So comparatively, we have been tracking the numbers of the calls of women to various women organization service providers to GBV survivors. And of course, what we can say is already the number of calls have been doubled during the period of the lockdown comparatively to the entire total of last year, as well as the police, the interior security forces, have also recorded comparatively the number of calls between March 2019 and March 2020 as being also the number has been recorded as double the last year. And many limitations, if I may just state, are there when it comes to women seeking that kind of support to address the men violence per se. Many limitations related to mobility, because as well, like we know in Lebanon, we lack public transportation. So during the lockdown, one of the fears and the worries that the women expressed was like, actually, even if I want to run away and escape the violence, there is no mean to be able to reach another, like a service structure or even a shelter, or where to go. Also, despite the very small geographic like size of the country, many women were lacking the knowledge about continuum of the services, considering that a lockdown meaning is like all the services have been stopped, and there is no way that anyone would be able to support, and NGOs have stopped their work, and so on and so forth. And also, one of the major concern and limitation was actually access to financial resources that is quite vital when it comes to women to escape the cycle of violence because of the banking crisis. So women were like not able to get and cash money from ATM or from the bank itself, which was an additional barrier. In addition to, of course, the logistic part of it, which is women being in the same space with their perpetrator, unable to have a space to and time to make a phone call, to speak freely and safely, fearing the escalation of the violence due to that. And at the same time, many women do not have control over the phone itself. So many share the same phone number, or the man sometimes have control over
Porque a lo mejor
the
el hombre
mobile.
tiene el control del teléfono, a lo mejor ellas ni siquiera tienen teléfono móvil.
Okay. Having said that, what we have been doing in addition to being able to shift to mobile kind of services, remote services for GBV case management and for even mental health care and so on, was as well adapting many of the service structure and monitoring and thinking through how we can reach out to women to make awareness around availability of service there, break the isolation that is additional due to the lockdown to already what women usually live because of the gender-based violence, in addition to engaging the community with all its members as ambassador for solidarity, for promoting the helpline number and let them know and encourage them to speak up. At least to think through out loudly with a specialist what are their options in their own unique situation, and at the same time assess the risks, the risk related to the situation, and maybe learn some of the modality on how to deal with the escalating dynamic of violence within the family itself. It's important actually just to note that women in Lebanon seeking help behavior was mostly through social media platforms. And it's a kind of conversation that I think we should be starting having around the globe, how we can make the social media a platform safe, sometimes for women to report or to speak to a specialist or to flag insecurity, especially when they are in life-threatening situation. As it was like something that was new for our practice, that women are reporting through inbox, through Facebook inbox, Messenger, through Instagram Messenger, and sometimes even having the e-counseling through these medium, and not only preferable than using a line to call and speak in light of course, the limitations of the situation, which has also brought another layer and another complexity to the situation, because many girls actually, they have been more and more reported as being a victim of sexual harassment through and cyberbullying because of the unsafe and uncontrolled and unhealthy use of social media and interacting sometimes with strangers. And ISF, actually the Interior Security Forces, actually reported the kind of increase of the number of underage girls being subject to cyberbullying during the lockdown period, which is like for us now it's more than 2 months and a half, 2 months and a week. One last point that I wanted actually to flag is to invite you all to think through the situation. Yes, gender-based violence is a global problem. It's a public health problem as defined by WHO. So it is an issue to be prioritized equally as any kind of health pandemic. However, the situation of women and girls in my country actually is topped with complexity of not only patriarchy, but in addition to corruption of the system that is failing in having any kind of response toward provision of prevention and response services. All services are still to be paid by women themselves, and it's on the shoulder of civil society. We lack due diligence from the state in providing specialized services. And adding on that is confessionalism, because as maybe some of you would know, that Lebanon is it's a confessional system governed by personal status code, which is we have 19 confession and 18 laws that govern the family relationship. including everything related to divorce, to custody, alimony, and so on and so forth. So when it comes to a woman deciding and having the courage actually to face the violence she's having, it's not only about facing patriarchy, it's not only about thinking through how to break the cycle of violence, but it means as well to having on her own shoulder like the cost of judicial system, of legal procedures, of medical and mental health care that are resulting from violence, as well as thinking through her economic independency. And adding to this is to confront the the confessional system related to personal status code, which means a long fight with the court. And that all is linked to what women during this COVID-19 pandemic lockdown have been going through in the thinking and in as a kind of considerations of what are the limitations in case I want to stand up and take a stand against the violence I'm living. We wanted to share with you like the latest initiative that we had to encourage women to speak up against the gender-based violence they're having. It was a campaign, a social media campaign, an interactive campaign called Lockdown, Not Lock Up, which is something that was common around the globe. And this campaign was inviting actually women and men in their own neighborhood to take an action and support in countering gender-based violence as being messenger like a messenger to solidarity for the women in their neighborhood. At the same time, helping in promoting the helpline number, because it's very hard to reach out to these women through other mediums, through outreach, through activities and awareness and seminars. So we asked people where they are in their own home to stand on the balcony and have a white sheet, write down a message to these women and to let them know that they're not alone, that it's not their fault, and break the isolation, and write down the hotline number to encourage them to reach out for help. So I wanted to share with you this very short video that we did to invite people to this activation, which was like resonating like really very, very highly and in high interaction and support from community, even influencers and celebrities that joined the force to support that. So Tom?
إذا محجورين ببيت آمن ما تقولوا هيدا حبس، لأن في نساء عن جد محبوسين مع سجانهم وعم يتعرضوا كل يوم لأبشع أنواع التعنيف. بس نحن قادرين نمنع الحجر إنه يتحول لحجز، ونوقف التعتيم لنوقف التعنيف. بالشهر المخصص عالمياً للتوعية ضد العنف الجنسي خلينا نوقف من بلكينا الخميس 16 نيسان الساعة 6 حد كل امرأة معنفة، حتى نشاركن تضامننا وننشر على أي شرشف أو قطعة قماش الرقم يلي خصصته منظمة أبعاد لمساعدة النساء المعنفات السجينات ببيوتهم. خلينا ننشر هالمرة غسيل نظيف ورسالة أمل وتضامن. الحجر لسلامتك مش للتعدي عليكي وإهانتك. حجر مش حجز.
Thank you so much. So that was an action that took place across the country, where we had all families from various backgrounds. We had many actually also men feeling like mobilized to join the force with their daughters as well, to say yeah we're against this, and home should be the safe place for family member, a time where we all can have quality time with each other. And also municipalities across the country joined the force as well. And it was one initiative, if I may say, that organizations working on gender-based violence, feminist groups, can think through like how we can take this moment where we are all together in this situation, being women, being men, from various backgrounds, being even refugees. In the country, we have a large refugee community where even saying stay home was not even an option. Following all the prophylaxis needed for prevention was not even an option. And we have as well a large community of elderlies and people with special needs and LGBT community that is already being vulnerable and left behind in any kind of intervention. And we thought through as a group in this kind of initiative that can help bringing people together and showing if we don't have a state that have high accountability toward gender-based violence, we don't have proper legislations that will ensure accountability toward that behavior, at least we have a communal sense of solidarity that will make any person using violence as a medium for imposing power or for communicating will feel like there's the kind of community of solidarity. So this is where what I wanted to briefly share with you based on also what with other co-organizers we agreed upon, a very generic snapshot on the situation of women and girls living with gender-based violence during this pandemic lockdown. So we can also build on it in the conversation of what men can do and how we can engage men then in the kind of prevention around this. And at the same time, how we can come all together to advocate against ending gender-based violence. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Gita, for your presentation and for setting the context for our subsequent conversation. You're doing great work at Abad, and it's really important that those of us working with men and boys listen to the experiences of women's organizations and women who are on the front lines of addressing this pandemic. So thank you for helping us with that. And this is definitely a practice that all of us can take forward in our work to engage men and boys, is to connect with local women's organizations, to listen, to pay attention to the experiences and see what's going on, and to offer to support and act in solidarity. So here's the first lesson learned. Do that in the work as much as possible. It's imperative. It's a strong principle in the engaging men and boys approach. Listen to women on the front lines and women's organizations, and do that in partnership with them. So thank you again, Gita, and our best wishes to you and Abad for continued good work. And thank you as well for reminding us of the multiple layers that are attached to these challenges and the vulnerabilities that many women and vulnerable communities like the LGBTQ community and people who are in situations of migrating, forced or otherwise, those experiences are significant, and we must find ways to address them as well. So thanks again. And I'm now going to turn it over to Lakshman and Sinead from the Global Secretariat to take us through some of the comments and questions in the chat box. So over to you, Lakshman and Sinead.
Thank you. So that was amazing, Gita, and a lot of appreciation and acknowledgement of amazing work and the campaign that you have initiated. And colleagues had asked for the link to video, and I see someone have already shared it. And we will also share the link that of the video and other videos that Abad have been making under this campaign, so that you can be inspired. But also these links are available in the website of MenEngage Alliance, and you can look into there as well. So as we said, we have been monitoring the comment box as well. And some of the comments there were no questions as such, but more of reflections from a number of colleagues. And there were from colleagues from Bangladesh referred to not only women, but all indigenous people, including boys, having multiple problems, such as economic problems and land grabbing in the name of army camp and police camp, especially referring to the situation of heavy militarization that is happening around Chittagong Hill Track in Bangladesh. So sharing from there. Praveen from India shared also about support system in India is totally suspended, and how the government is kind of using very militaristic approach to kind of handle the situation. And then you know, then how can in such a situation we be able to handle the situation of violence at home during this time where people are not allowed to even go out? And then Thin Maya Khin also referred to, there was a question, is there any conflict related area or rural area where there is no phone or internet connection? So if there is any practices that we can apply, probably the video answer to that particular question as well, and the conditions was elaborated there, and we will go into more of the situational analysis as well in the next presentations. There was a question from, can we talk about engaging men? So yeah, we would really urge you to hold on and be patient there, because I think what Geeta was able to present is to give the broad situation that women and girls and the ground reality where the engaging boys and men work should be founding open. So I think the next presenters will be specifically talking on that. But I think, thank you for raising that, and definitely the field lesson learns and what Geeta was presenting is actually what is happening in the field right now. Corinne shared about what New York Times did in New York, that they had a pre-made page in the newspaper which families can cut. So there is a good practice happening in New York, which something can be inspired. So those were the main comments or thoughts from colleagues. Are there anything in Spanish, Sinead?
Yeah, so there were just a few comments in Spanish, just appreciating the video and saying that the campaign was very creative and innovative. But that was it for now. So please, if you speak Spanish, please feel free to write comments in Spanish in the chat box, and we'll translate them and feed them back afterwards.
Yeah. So with that, I think we would like to move to the first breakout room. In the prompt, what we wanted you to do is to introduce shortly, and then share about what are your thoughts, feelings, and ideas after hearing from Geeta. It's listening to each other about and how you feel right now after hearing to what Geeta presented of the situation. So I wanted to sort of invite Tom, who is supporting us on the technical side, to help us understand how the breakout rooms will work. Tom?
Thanks, Lakshman. Yeah, thanks everyone, and hi. So yeah, we're going to do some breakouts. If you're not familiar with this, it's a Zoom feature where we can all separate into small groups. And really this is because this session is not just about hearing from experiences. I know many of you on the call have been working hard in your own context and have ideas and want to connect and share with each other what you've been doing, and to hear from others as well. So let's break up into smaller groups.
All right, welcome back everyone. We're slowly getting back together, and just as a note of curiosity, there's over 300 people in this webinar. I know there were over 400 registrations, and so it just goes to show how much interest there is in this topic. So after our breakout session, I hope that you had a chance to speak with each other a little bit more about your particular contexts and your reactions to Geeta's presentations. So now we'll turn to our second presenter, which is Samita Sugathimala from the Foundation for Innovative Social Development. And Samita is going to be speaking about her organization's work in the context of Sri Lanka. Samita, over to you, please.
Thank you, Humberto. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are. Next slide, please. So today I'm presenting as FISD on behalf of MenEngage Alliance Sri Lanka. FISD is a non-profit organization established in 2011, and of course at present we are the National Secretariat for the MenEngage Alliance. And we have years of experience working with engaging men and boys. And we will be taking over the MenEngage Alliance South Asia Secretariat from July 2020. Next, please. So I will first go into the brief introduction to the context of Sri Lanka. As per today, we have 797 reported cases. And we have been locked down with all island curfew since 20th March. Of course, there had been differences in districts where the curfew had been released, and risk areas where still curfew is going on. And within this context, I think men were confined to the home, which is creating much of chaos, because we have seen increasing incidences of men getting arrested for breaking curfew laws. I think so far from 20th March up to now, there had been close to 50,000 men being arrested, and thousands of vehicles being arrested with them. Most of the cases of breaking curfew was for either men are looking for income earning efforts, in search of alcohol and drugs, and sometimes like they wanted to fulfill their urge for socializing and get out of their homes. The total process of responding to pandemic in Sri Lanka was handled by the Health Ministry, Minister of Defense, and by the Presidential Special Task Force for Essential Services and Media Matters. Next. So when it comes to women, I think women are also confined to their houses. And most of the women with their abusive partners, and also they have lack of access to any redress mechanisms to kind of prevent that. All their routes of escape are blocked, and because they can't visit friends, they can't go to a next house, they can't go to their parents' house, they can't escape to their workplaces, and it has created a lot of issues for women. Some of the reported cases of violence, we have seen that it has extended to not only to women but also to other members of the family, including children and some of the grandparents as well. So in this kind of scenario where communication is confined to mobiles and online platforms, where those platforms are owned and controlled and monitored by men, and mostly these devices are in men's hands. So even talking for women, even talking to a friend for comfort is restricted. According to the Department of Census and Statistics in 2019, only 41% women had digital literacy compared to that of 48% men. The police and the other authorities are disconnected from handling these violence-related issues, because they have given priority to their other duties related to COVID-19. Providing essential services and going after people who are infected and who are not reporting, so many things. And most of the cases were either most of the cases of domestic violence were either reported as accidents to the hospitals or to most of the available hotlines as accidents, or it's not being identified as much as we wanted to identify them. Next, please. Well, in this scenario, men of course started using social media to share their frustrations. That I think this has been the case everywhere, and we have seen it mostly in the South Asian context, where they have shared their frustrations of staying at home and was complaining of having been pushed to support in care work. And we have seen a lot of women insulting and laughing about these men being pushed to help in the house. Women who actually ask for support and call for support at the home front have been portrayed as evil. It had created a very bad image for maybe men as well. In social media was playing a strong role in justifying and legitimizing negative male social behavior, male frustrations of staying at home, and emphasizing their role as breadwinners and protectors. That had been, we have seen it throughout this lockdown period. Most of women do not wish to take legal action or to report cases, still for cultural reasons as well as for economic reasons, as reported by some of the local news channels. Next. As per the given context of the problem, there was a need for a male-to-male dialogue, and which could be, which could create a space for men who are already in favor of sharing care work and who values this opportunity to spend quality time with their families, and who wanted to share their experiences of positive outcomes of staying home with their families. So we have reached out to men through through online spaces, as men had the control of that space. Because men had the devices, men had the control of devices of women. So it's mostly talking to men through online seems to be effective. And also this reach out is more relevant to most of the Facebook page admins as well. So we have created the space for men to share messages from their own homes. That is, I mean, with our campaign, we have created that space where men could talk from their own homes. And we have created a positive outlook for male engagement in a context where men also undergo their own frustrations. So MenEngage Alliance Sri Lanka actually initiated the Men of Quality online campaign to create this space. Next. Initially, we opened up and we asked from the members to talk to us and give their messages to us. So we have reached out to men who value the opportunity to spend the quality time with their families. And in the first round of videos, we have focused on sharing views on sharing of care work, which of course is creating a bit of controversy against the social media portrayal of frustrated men. The videos actually promoted mutual respect, sharing and caring, and valuing relationships. The focus of the, we started a second round of videos, which had the focus of to discuss issues related to masculinity in general and other structural violences which are manifesting, which are of course that is running in this part of the world. So in this second round of videos, we have more specifically focusing on issues of domestic violence, gender stereotyping, and promotion of child violence, which had been happening in social media, promoting the macho stereotypes and issues of SRHR, LGBT issues from LGBTQI communities, and also on online harassment. So we have men who have kind of, come out and say that we want to talk about these things for the campaign, so that we want to give a message to other men. Next, please. So for the sake of time, I will not run videos, but if you go to MenEngage Sri Lanka Facebook page, and if you like the page, you can watch all the videos. And also, I think the videos are also available at Men and Masculinities COVID-19 response website. Next. So to talk about achievement in the short term, because this is a very unpredictable situation and period that we are facing. So we will have to wait and see how this is going to be effective in the long run. To talk about in the short term, the videos, the campaign generated both positive and negative comments from men and also from women. Mostly talking about men, most of the positive comments are accepting this as a timely initiative, as a much needed discussion in the country, and the need for men to come out and speak openly and boldly is being seen as very important. So we have got comments to take it forward and engage movement. The negative comments included complaints on devaluing men, like the videos are making men kind of maybe in their own terms womanish, and kind of devaluing them. It's against their masculinity. We have got some that kind of comments as well, and also some have been highlighting that we as men also face violence from women, and no one is talking about it. It's a common complaint that we have been hearing throughout, so those comments were some of the negative comments to the campaign, but most of the comments were very positive. And also there were suggestions for improvement, because initially these we couldn't control the messages. Men thought their own ideas, and they shared their own ideas. So the time that they took in the videos was up to them. So some of the videos had like 2 to 3 minutes length. So there were suggestions to reduce the length of the videos and engaging more men from vulnerable communities, because we, at the first round, we engaged men from different professions. So I think we have now planned to go into more communities and talk to men from vulnerable settings. And also some people suggested that we need to share information through this platform, the need for psychosocial support for men, and also share information where they can access those support. And also they wanted us to address issues of alcoholism, because most of the domestic violence cases were related to use of alcohol, as it came as after behavior, because in most of our contexts, we have been excusing violence when it is done after using alcohol. And also there were suggestions to have discussions on sexual violence related, because there is a lot of issues happening due to lack of dialogue on sexuality and related issues mostly at family level and between spouses. So those were some of the suggestions that came with the comments, and we will continue the campaign with the suggestions and improve on it, and we'll keep the dialogue. We will keep the dialogue active, and we'll see how it will kind of be more effective in the long run. So I think this is from Sri Lankan side, this is the kind of a practical experience that I wanted to share. Thank you, MenEngage Alliance, for giving us this opportunity. And I also want to thank my colleagues from MenEngage Alliance Sri Lanka, and all other men who were in the videos and who are, who are still requesting us to be part of this campaign. So I'm thanking everyone, and happy to share maybe in the future how we are going about this campaign. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Samita, for your great work and for that presentation. I think there's some valuable lessons out of your experience with the Men of Quality campaign, and in particular, the use of a strength-based approach, positive, looking at the positive roles that men can play, the engagement of men together, sharing with other men, and you've also shared some things that could have been improved. So thank you very much. And so here's another great approach, strength-based, gender transformative approaches to engaging men and boys. And just as a quick plug, We at White Ribbon in Canada, we have our own Men of Quality campaign as well, and I invite you to have a look at it. It's a campaign that engages with athletes, male athletes, and you can find it at menofquality.ca. So another example of a campaign, in this particular case, engaging influential folks. So we're now going to, so thank you again, Samita, for your work and the work of colleagues in the region on this. It's very important. So I'm going to pass it on to Sinead and Lakshman again for just brief highlights, maybe 3 highlights from the comments and chat box. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Humberto. And yeah, so a lot of appreciation and of the initiative. There has been some examples and situation information shared. I think, you know, in addition to what Samita presented, Nalini and few other colleagues shared about the militarized approach that is going on in Sri Lanka as military controls everything. And Corinne referred us to initiative by Georgetown, Washington Women, Peace and Security group. They have done some analysis, especially looking at economic regions, waves, you know, much discussion on the waves of crisis, infection, lockdown, police security response and economic impact. Sanjog shared about similar initiative in Nepal, and Russ shared about the context in the US and how most of the efforts in the US are more gearing towards group education and counseling, which is not safe or possible in the context, and looking into some new approaches. And support to psychosocial support to men from Renu Adhikari and Rimzim, also referring to the point of alcohol. That is not the sole reason, but is associated with power dynamics. There is one question on how then we look at addressing from Nalini Khurana is how can we then this kind of backlash and response be addressed? So that's something to think around how, what will be the next step. Sinead, anything in Spanish?
No, nothing for now.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sinead and Lakshman, for that overview. And now we're going to turn it over to Alvaro Campos from Instituto WEM in Costa Rica, who will lead us through a presentation on his work. Alvaro, next, over to you.
Muy buenos días, buenas noches, buenas tardes a todas las personas participantes. Voy a compartir la experiencia de involucrar a los hombres, adultos y jóvenes en la prevención de la violencia hacia las mujeres y en la construcción de masculinidades positivas en Costa Rica. La próxima lámina. Next. Ok, para nada más recordar, Costa Rica es un pequeño país en América Central con 50.000 kilómetros cuadrados y 6 millones de habitantes aproximadamente. El Estado tiene una política de igualdad de género para hombres y mujeres y desde 2017 existe una política de masculinidades positivas igualitarias que está integrada a la política de prevención de la violencia hacia las mujeres. Es importante mencionar que esta política de masculinidades es monitoreada por el Instituto Nacional de las Mujeres y con una perspectiva feminista. Y existen organizaciones de la sociedad civil que trabajan con hombres adultos y jóvenes, tanto en el nivel comunitario como en el sector público. Por ejemplo, el Instituto Costarricense de Masculinidad, que es el que yo trabajo, trabajamos con hombres adolescentes y adultos en las comunidades, con talleres, con grupos de reflexión para hombres, donde los hombres hablan de sus vivencias. También existe una red de hombres del sector público que trabaja en las diferentes instituciones. Y hay otras organizaciones más, como la Fundación Justicia y Género, como Masculinidades géneros sensibles, etc. Y por supuesto la red MenEngage Costa Rica, que articula a muchas de estas organizaciones. Ese es un poco el contexto. Evidentemente, pues hay un contexto de legislación que previene la violencia, que sanciona la violencia, pero se sigue dando, y en este contexto del COVID-19 han aumentado pues los casos de violencia hacia las mujeres, y nos propusimos entonces trabajo dirigido a los hombres para involucrarlos. Next. Ok. ¿Qué hemos hecho con los hombres? 3 tipos de trabajo. Campañas, que ahora les voy a mencionar, son varias campañas. Grupos de terapia y reflexión en línea a lo largo del país, tanto en zona rural como en zona urbana, para hombres adultos y para hombres adolescentes. Estos grupos funcionan una vez por semana. Y atención telefónica a hombres en crisis. La situación del COVID produce situaciones de crisis. Algunos están pasando situaciones de desempleo o el estar en la casa, hace que no sepan cómo manejar la convivencia. Entonces hay un sistema de atención. Entonces el sistema de atención incluye las 3 áreas: campaña, grupos en línea y atención telefónica en crisis. The next. Ok, las campañas han consistido en infografías, videos y Facebook Live. Los temas que hemos tratado son el cuidado, herramientas para manejar el enojo, las emociones, el estrés, la comunicación, la convivencia, la paternidad ante la crisis. Estos materiales son elaborados colectivamente. Por ejemplo, los jóvenes elaboran sus propios materiales, los adolescentes, sus propios videos, sus propios infogramas. Y los materiales de los infogramas se van obteniendo de lo que los hombres nos reportan en las llamadas telefónicas o lo que reportan en los grupos de terapia. Por tal razón se están renovando semanalmente, pueden salir unos 3 videos y unos 4 o 5 infogramas desde que empezó la crisis del COVID, que es en marzo. Han habido varias campañas, básicamente hay 2, una del Instituto WEM, que es ante la emergencia del COVID-19, estos materiales, y hay otra campaña que sale justo hoy o mañana, que les voy a hablar en la próxima filmina. Next. La próxima, por favor. Esta es otra campaña que se llama Durante el Quédate en Casa, yo me apunto a cuidarnos. Esta es una campaña que la apoya el Sistema de Naciones Unidas en Costa Rica. Básicamente, el Programa de las Naciones Unidas para el Desarrollo, el Fondo de Población de las Naciones Unidas son quienes la apoyan, tanto en la guía como financieramente, por parte del Estado, del Ministerio de Seguridad. Y el Instituto Costarricense de Masculinidad, Instituto WEN, la organización que yo represento. Y logramos articular a otras organizaciones como la red MenEngage en Costa Rica. Y si ustedes ven acá en los logos, MAIS, que es la red de masculinidades juveniles, que es una red solo de jóvenes que está incorporada a MenEngage. También masculinidades, géneros sensibles, la red de hombres por igualdad del sector público, y esas son las ONGs que estamos, las organizaciones no gubernamentales. ¿Qué es lo que pretende esta campaña? Videos, materiales audiovisuales, Facebook Live, que se proyectarán en las redes sociales. Se suma a la campaña que ya veníamos trabajando anteriormente. Lo que busca es dar herramientas prácticas, porque a los hombres se les puede decir que prevengan la violencia, pero hay que decirles cómo. Si no les damos herramientas para manejar el estrés, el enojo y la frustración, va a ser difícil. También para que compartamos el cuidado de nuestra familia y las tareas del hogar. Y esto le damos mucho énfasis, que podamos hablar de nuestras preocupaciones, emociones, pensamientos. Recordemos que los hombres nos guardamos todo esto, lo callamos. Entonces es importante hablar. Y para eso tenemos una línea de apoyo para hombres y un sistema de atención telefónico que les voy a hablar posteriormente. Next, próximo. el otro eje es los grupos de terapia y reflexión para hombres. Son grupos en línea para los hombres en diversas partes del país. Algunos de estos grupos ya existían mucho antes de la campaña y se reunían presencialmente en diferentes partes del país. Le llamamos grupos de crecimiento personal para hombres, porque los hombres llegan y hablan de lo que les pasa, hablan de sus experiencias cotidianas, de cómo están manejando la relación de pareja, de cómo están manejando sus emociones, si hay conflictos con los celos, si están separados, cómo están relacionándose con los hijos. Y ahora, como el país tiene prohibido el trabajo, reunirse, entonces los hemos habilitado en línea. Estos hombres en estos grupos pensábamos que no iba a funcionar, pero era más un prejuicio de nosotros. Ha funcionado muy bien. Los hombres hablan entre sí acerca de sus dificultades durante el confinamiento, sus emociones. Otros comparten buenas prácticas con sus familiares, cómo están manejando el enojo y la frustración. Por ejemplo, anoche tuvimos sesión en el grupo de San Pedro, que es San José de Costa Rica. Esta foto es del grupo de ayer. Se integraron más de 30 hombres. Y el tema fue cómo manejar la frustración con los hijos e hijas en la casa, porque siento que estoy perdiendo el control y que los voy a maltratar. Ese fue el tema central. Entonces, los hombres hablan, aportan experiencias y los facilitadores van guiando el proceso de tal manera que los hombres se conecten con sus emociones y se les brindan herramientas para los dos ejes centrales, que es prevención de la violencia hacia las mujeres, las niñas, los niños en general, y la promoción del cuidado, la ternura y de una masculinidad igualitaria. Estos grupos son tanto para adultos como para adolescentes y han logrado funcionar. Teníamos temor que en zona rural no funcionara, pero bueno, en estos momentos tenemos una cobertura bastante generalizada del Internet en el país y se han podido integrar casi todos los hombres de los grupos. Next, la próxima. También estamos dando atención individual por teléfono. En Costa Rica existe la línea de apoyo para hombres del Instituto WEN desde hace muchos años. Hay un número directo y estamos conectados al servicio de emergencia 911. Durante la emergencia del COVID-19, habilitamos el servicio de lunes a domingo, todos los días, de 10 de la mañana a 4 de la tarde, con apoyo de el Programa de las Naciones Unidas para el Desarrollo. Hombres llaman todos los días al instituto y cuentan sus problemas y ahí lo atienden 2 psicólogos. Ha habido bastantes llamadas de los hombres y es una manera de prevenir violencia, porque algunos dicen ya estoy a punto, ya no soporto, voy a estallar, y les damos herramientas también para el control. La next. También organizamos, y esto sí es novedoso, esto no lo teníamos, un sistema de atención para hombres a nivel comunitario, atendido por hombres promotores comunitarios. Tenemos aproximadamente unos 100 hombres promotores comunitarios que han vivido todo el sistema de atención y educación del Instituto WEN y han recibido capacitación para brindar primeros auxilios psicológicos a otros hombres. Estos hombres están atendiendo a otros hombres por teléfono. No solo es la línea de apoyo que es atendida por psicólogos, sino hombres que no son psicólogos atendiendo a otros hombres, con la metodología de educación entre pares. Y ahí estos hombres le cuentan la experiencia a los otros, les dicen cómo pueden sobrellevar la crisis que están viviendo. Algunas de las consultas han sido básicamente, ya no soporto estar en la casa, los problemas que tienen con la pareja y sobre todo que están a punto de estallar y entonces llaman a tiempo y son atendidos. Este es un sistema que ha resultado muy bien porque ha motivado mucho a los promotores y ha motivado mucho a los hombres. Y algunos hombres van a los grupos en línea, llaman a la línea de apoyo para hombres y si no es suficiente, llaman a los promotores comunitarios que hacen su trabajo de manera voluntaria y que se ofrecen, dan un horario semanal para que los hombres los puedan llamar. La próxima, por favor. Los Facebook live, se tienen varios programados, les cuento este es un conversatorio de jóvenes, la ansiedad de los jóvenes, que fue el lunes, y participaron jóvenes comunitarios que pertenecen a la red de masculinidades juveniles, ¿verdad? Y también al programa Buen Joven. Este agrupa jóvenes adolescentes, básicamente, y adultos jóvenes, hasta más o menos los 20 años. O sea, están jóvenes de 14 a 20 años. Y ellos son los que plantearon los temas. Querían trabajar el tema ansiedad de los jóvenes. La próxima, por favor. Algunas infografías que se han hecho desde el Buen Joven, por ejemplo, COVID-19, lo que estamos sintiendo. Acá les damos pautas para trabajar las emociones, de tristeza, miedo, confusión, estrés, aburrimiento, impaciencia, enojo. Y les decimos que es normal sentir esto, pero que si nos está saliendo de las manos, llamen a la línea. O sea, para integrar todo el sistema. Esto se distribuye a todos por las redes y también por los WhatsApp. A manera de ejemplo, ¿cómo manejar mis celos? Este es un tema que plantearon los jóvenes. Tengo celos porque no veo a mi pareja y a lo mejor está con otra persona y no puedo salir a verla. Entonces, se han elaborado materiales muy a la coyuntura actual para darles herramientas, darles tips a los jóvenes sobre cómo manejar esta situación. Y también les sirve a los adultos. Esto es para jóvenes, pero también los adultos lo han empleado. Next. Próxima. Por ejemplo, esta fue muy interesante. Cómo identificar una relación tóxica, también, ¿verdad? Qué hacer para entretenerse en cuarentena, ¿verdad? Entonces, varios tips también que se dieron. La próxima, next. Esta otra que es PPA. Pare, piense, actúe. Como herramienta que se le da a los hombres. Y siguiendo las directrices del Ministerio de Salud, también cómo podemos adaptar los servicios de atención a los hombres. Next. Algunos videos, por ejemplo, este COVID-19, el impacto psicosocial de los hombres, que son varias partes. ¿Qué hacer en cuarentena? Un video de un joven. ¿Cómo mantener una relación en cuarentena? Este fue muy interesante porque era decir, bueno, si no la puedo ver a la pareja o no lo puedo ver, ¿cómo mantener la relación? Y manejo de las emociones, por decir algo. La campaña del PNUD toca otros temas también en videos que van a estar disponibles probablemente a partir de la semana entrante en las redes sociales del PNUD y de Facebook y del Instituto Gwen. La próxima, por favor, next. Ok, entonces, tal vez en síntesis, ¿qué es lo que hemos aprendido de esta campaña? Estamos involucrando hombres del sector público, hombres de las comunidades y de todas las edades, jóvenes y adultos, en casi todo un movimiento, muy en alianza con el movimiento feminista, con las mujeres, muy en coordinación los mensajes que se mandan y sobre todo hemos logrado aumentar la participación de los hombres. Eso tal vez ha sido la experiencia más importante. Están entusiasmados, están interesados en todo el proceso. Eso sería lo que quería compartir y atento a las preguntas que quieran hacernos. Bueno, veo algunas preguntas, yo no sé en qué momento las puedo contestar. Por ejemplo, hay una muy interesante, ¿qué hacer si la conexión telefónica no surte efecto y el hombre llama, que llama termina ejerciendo violencia? Bueno, es muy difícil evitar esto, pero por lo general los atendemos telefónicamente, les decimos que sigan llamando, los referimos a los grupos en línea y también hemos mantenido grupos presenciales en el día, de poca cantidad de personas, porque no se pueden reunir muchos, pero hay grupos para hombres que están realmente en emergencia, que necesitan ser atendidos, grupos muy pequeños, como de unas 10 personas, estamos teniendo en las tardes. Muchas gracias.
Álvaro. That was a great presentation, and we'll share a couple of highlights from the chat session, but wonderful examples of campaigns and approaches, and in particular, your helpline for men who have used violence or are using violence or are at risk of using violence, which is a pretty significant gap, I believe, in addressing this issue currently. And otherwise, I think that we need more good examples, more good practices of rehabilitation for men who have used violence or are at the risk of use violence. So that's another important approach. You know, and it's important that it be gender transformative, of course, and that it keeps the end goal of ending violence against women, ending discrimination, ending inequities for women and girls in mind. So thank you for your good work. Thank you to the Institute WEM in Costa Rica and the colleagues in the region who are doing this work. So Lakshman and Sinead, maybe a couple of quick highlights from the chat, and then we'll do our last breakout session for a few moments to give everybody a chance to digest a little bit what has been presented, and then we'll come back together for the closing. So over to you, Lakshman and Sinead.
Sinead?
Yes, we just had a couple of comments in Spanish. We had one of the questions that Alvaro already kind of referred to, that was about if the helpline doesn't work and there are incidents of violence, and are there mechanisms for reacting to violence as well as trying to prevent it. And we had another comment about how to provide psychological support to men in rural areas by community facilitators. And that's it, just a few comments saying really interesting presentation. That's all.
Yeah, so, and yeah, a lot of appreciation again, and few questions around some of the details around the initiative, and some sharing of the situations across different countries, across the regions, and specific to the point around the psychosocial support to boys and men, and request on whether we will translate the presentation, which I responded on the chat box, so we will do that as well. And some questions around monitoring and evaluation. So, and I think more around was on the situations that colleagues face in the different part of the world, information that of some similar initiatives. So what we would encourage also is to, if you would like, you know, your initiatives be further shared and put on the website that we are creating, please feel free to share that with us as well. Yeah, I think that's all I would say for this.
Okay, wonderful. We are running out of time. So what I would recommend is actually that we forego the breakout session and then we open it to the plenary for some quick comments, maybe for 10 minutes or so. Just checking in with Lakshman. Is that okay? Because I think otherwise we're not going to have much time in the breakout session. Okay, so we'll do that. And perhaps you can raise your hand, use the, okay, so we've got a request here from Media Gado. Please go ahead and keep your question or your comment very brief, as in 1 minute long, so we can take as many of your comments and questions as possible, okay? Go ahead, please.
Thank you. This is Media Gado from UNFPA Sudan. Thank you so much for your time and for the presentation. My questions are, what guidelines Abad are using in Lebanon for their engaging men, for men engaging interventions they are having there, and how do they monitor the interventions in Beirut and in the areas where they don't have access to the program? So monitoring and then guidelines. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Gita, are you still with us? Are you able to answer this question? Gita, if you are with us, unmute your microphone and please answer the question. Anybody else from Abad who could answer this question? Okay, sorry, we no longer have anyone from Abad in the webinar. Let's see if we can take another question perhaps, or maybe you can reframe your question. Media Gado, would you like to reframe that question so someone else can answer it?
Yeah, thank you. So the question is not specifically for Abad. Huh? I commented on Abad specifically because they are from the Arabic region. So it's for all the presenters. What kind of guidelines you have for engaging men? I am aware of IRCs engaging men through accountable practices. I worked on it, but my question is, what do you have as NGOs and agencies for engaging men? What guidelines do you use? If you can share it, English, Arabic will be good, but of course other languages are not, at least for us in the Middle East. And how do you monitor such interventions remotely, but also like a close monitoring? I'm asking these questions because I work for Sudan, and we are in Darfur, where monitoring is very hard because of the COVID-19 situation. So how do we do remote monitoring of engaging men interventions? What guidelines do you have that we can learn from? Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to invite Samita and Alvaro to share perhaps their own guidelines and how they go about monitoring their programs. Samita, are you with us? Remember to unmute your microphone.
I would like to mention that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think from a Sri Lankan perspective, I can add that as MenEngage Alliance Sri Lanka, we have been using the guiding principles given by MenEngage Global Alliance, and also we are using the accountability principles as well. So I think both those guidelines and principles are available online in English, and monitoring, of course, is very tricky and very challenging, but still I think for us, it is through our membership and continuous reviewing of members' work, and we do monitoring through members. So members do use their own monitoring mechanisms and report to MenEngage Alliance at common review meetings. So that is how we have been managing that from our end. Thank you.
Thank you, Samita. Alvaro, would you like to add guidelines and principles or monitoring?
Tal vez la directriz principal es convocar a los hombres desde el lenguaje de los hombres. Aquí hay un gran reto, porque estamos inspirados por principios éticos de derechos humanos, de respeto a las diversidades sexuales y alianza con el movimiento feminista. ¿Cómo desde ahí podemos llamar a los hombres que se sientan ellos involucrados? Entonces, ¿cómo convocarlos? Esta es la tarea más difícil. Nosotros por eso hemos apostado mucho por promotores comunitarios, que sean ellos los que convoquen a los hombres, que sean ellos los que le hablen a los hombres, para que los hombres se incorporen y se den cuenta que no me están llamando solo para hablar, para ayudar a las mujeres o para prevenir violencia a las mujeres, sino que también yo voy a salir beneficiado porque voy a mejorar mi vida, voy a mejorar mi relación de pareja, porque voy a estar más tranquilo. O sea, que también ellos vean de que la igualdad y la prevención de la violencia nos beneficia a todos y a todas, no solo a las mujeres. Entonces, esto es muy importante, digamos, como directriz fundamental, y la participación, que no sea solo de los funcionarios de las organizaciones no gubernamentales, sino que sea participación de la misma comunidad.
Okay, gracias, Alvaro. And just to mention as well that Osvaldo included the link to the MenEngage accountability guidelines that Samita referred to in the chat box, so you can find it there. I'm now going to turn it over to Carlos Campillo for a question. Go ahead, Carlos. Remember to unmute your microphone. Go ahead. Okay, Carlos, we can't hear you. I'm going to go to Ria from Crown. Please go ahead, Ria.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Thank you so much for sharing this very rich very rich discussion. To all those who shared, it's really appreciated. I have learned a lot, and I'm also unlearning a lot. So it's good for us. And I was thinking also, how can we, people who come from war-torn countries like South Sudan, be able to engage men who have highly patriarchal minds and primitive minds? How do we work with them? How do we convince them to join in this fight so that we work together and get better results? So quickly, my concern is about men in uniform. So in South Sudan, for example, we have security men who are the ones like everywhere on the streets. Even they're the ones who check cars instead of traffic police. And it's also a form of harassment, you know. But how do we engage such men? Because mostly women in uniform have not been put out there at night. It's always men who are checking cars, for example. How do we engage them? How do we convince them? Because it also involves a lot of harassment. And I have a suggestion. If you could put out or join the other members who are working on global ceasefire, how do we ensure that arms embargoes are implemented? For example, South Sudan, our arms embargo is supposed to be expiring in May, and I fear that if this is not, if this is uplifted and it's not continued, we may have another outbreak of war because we are still fragile and shaking. How do we work together to ensure that also we have no arms being sold? Thank you so much.
Wonderful, thank you for that question. Samita or Alvaro, do either of you have experience working with law enforcement or the military that you could answer?
Yo quisiera hablar un poquito sobre eso.
Yes, go ahead, Alvaro. And for those of you, remember to click on the interpretation and
Sí.
choose the English channel so you can hear it, and then turn it off to come back to the regular sound.
Sí. Bueno, lamento mucho la situación de Sudán y de los países militarizados. En Costa Rica nosotros no tenemos ejército, lo que tenemos es una policía civil y trabajamos con la policía. La policía tiene programas preventivos en lo que es prevención de violencia, hace trabajo comunitario. Dentro de la policía hay todo un colectivo que trabaja masculinidades, que han recibido capacitación para dar talleres en el tema de masculinidad y prevención de la violencia, y también para dar alguna atención a los hombres en las comunidades. Es un caso muy diferente, muy particular. Inclusive la Escuela Nacional de Policía en Costa Rica, cuando estudian para policías, llevan un módulo que se llama Prevención de la Violencia y trabajan el tema de masculinidades. Nosotros como Instituto WEN tuvimos la oportunidad de elaborar ese módulo de trabajo. Entonces no sabría qué hacer a nivel ya de Fuerzas Armadas, pero sí les puedo decir que este trabajo con la policía ha sido de gran importancia en el país y en estos momentos es un aliado de los procesos de masculinidad. De hecho, la campaña de que hablé de Quédate en casa, yo me apunto a cuidarnos, que apoya a las Naciones Unidas, el Ministerio de Seguridad, del cual está adscrita la policía, es una de las instituciones gubernamentales que también lo apoya.
Gracias, Alvaro. And I'm just noticing on the chat box that Abad has some good experience working with law enforcement as well. So they may be good to reach out to for more information. They do work with law enforcement and with the army in Lebanon and in the region. I'm going to pass the microphone over to Carlos Garcia for a question. Go ahead, Carlos.
Bueno, muchas gracias. Más que una pregunta, es un comentario rápido, teniendo en cuenta lo que en relación con la primera intervención se había dicho, de las dificultades de que las mujeres tengan acceso al Internet muchas veces para hacer las denuncias. En Bogotá, como en Colombia, obviamente también se ha duplicado los episodios de violencia intrafamiliar, y un acuerdo que hizo la alcaldía de Bogotá muy interesante fue con supermercados y con droguerías. como en 630 puntos de la ciudad, las mujeres, y teniendo en cuenta que estamos ahora en algo que se llama pico y género, los hombres pueden salir solamente un día a la calle y las mujeres al día siguiente, días pares e impares. Entonces, la alcaldía hizo un acuerdo con estos mercados populares en el que las mujeres, tal vez aprovechando los días que pueden salir, pueden poner la denuncia directamente en supermercados y en droguerías para poder tener acceso al sistema de justicia. Creo que es una experiencia interesante de comentar. Muchas gracias.
Okay, very much. Thank you very much for that. I'm gonna pass it on to Chuck Derry. Go ahead, Chuck.
Hello, everyone. One of the things that I think is very important to add to this conversation, which I have much appreciated, is the issues of male dominance, power, and control, and all the benefits and the privileges that men receive based on patriarchy. And that if we're going to engage men, that we need to connect and talk about the benefits and how they're making decisions. And this is true if you're talking with men who are violent, which I worked with for 10 years, that there are benefits to violence. It is very functional. And I have information regarding these things. I also did a podcast recently in Australia. It's on our website, Gender Violence Institute website, about toxic masculinity and toxic for who, and the benefits of violence, and how to engage men who are very traditional masculinities, moving from their heads to their hearts. So again, I think it's important in this conversation, pro-feminism, to talk about male privilege and benefits, and will our compassion for others override our benefits that we receive from sexism. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck, for that important reminder. I'm going to pass it on next to the Movement for Rural Development. Please go ahead. Remember to unmute your microphone. We can't hear you. Okay. I'm going to invite Sylvia R.A. Please, you included a comment. Please share it with us if you'd like.
Yes, hi, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. And in response to what was being shared about Costa Rica, I added that in Trinidad and Tobago, our police service, very much a civil police system, recently opened a gender-based violence support unit. And that really is the result of lobbying from the local civil society organizations, particularly like the Network for the Advancement of Women and the CEDAW Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. We do have an office for gender affairs in the office of the Prime Minister. So, you know, I think we have a lot of the infrastructure in terms of organizations that are attuned to the gender-based discourses. But of course, it is always getting the state to act in all areas and as quickly as you would want. But I would say that the gender-based violence support unit was a big step, and we do appreciate that. So the lobbies will continue to ensure that these issues remain on the front burner. You know, in terms of men and masculinities, our University of the West Indies at St. Augustine does have a Department of Gender Studies, and men and masculinities form part of the curriculum. I don't know if any of them are on this webinar right now, but I think they would be better placed to talk about it. But the important thing is, in addition to such an academic forum, you also have men's groups within the society. So I think what I have to do is to find out whether we do have any links with MenEngage here in Trinidad and Tobago, because you do have groups like the Single Fathers Association, you know, and I'm not sure. It's an area I personally have not focused too much on. I do belong to a women's group, Sir Optimus International, and the CEDAW Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. so that I realize now that I need to find out some more about the linkages that our men have in this society. Okay, but the hotlines are available to all men and women, although you find that there's a disproportionate amount of women using the hotlines. And recently, in terms of COVID-19, the police reported an increase in domestic violence reports. And so, and there was also from the Children's Authority an increase in children using the hotline. So it seems almost global that this situation of lockdown and quarantine is really exacerbating relationships, particularly if they are conflicted within the domestic environment. So that will be my contribution right now.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. Important to keep in mind, and I encourage you to connect with Caraman, which is the regional MenEngage network in the Caribbean, and they do have representatives there in Trinidad and Tobago. You can get their contact information or link through the MenEngage website, menengage.org. So I encourage you to connect with the great folks there. They're doing really great work. Caraman. And they use a feminist-based human rights approach, which is very important given the strong presence of men's rights organizations in the region. So do connect with them, and if you need our support, please reach out to us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Umberto. Yes.
All right, thanks for participating. So folks, it's getting close to 11 o'clock and we're going to wrap it up. And there is obviously so much more to say, so much more to share, so much more to collaborate. So we really encourage you to stay in touch. And check out our website, menengage.org, sign up for our newsletter, connect with your local MenEngage national and regional networks. There are many of them across the world. As I mentioned during the introduction, there are 72 of them. We also want to acknowledge that some of the technology didn't go too well during this webinar, so we will work on that for the next one for sure. So thanks everyone for your patience. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to our translators as well. And just to remind everyone that our next webinar will be on May 19th. And it will go deeper into these issues. We'll look at the structural and systemic barriers and limitations that have come up, in particular during this pandemic, but that do exist in our society nonetheless. We will be promoting this webinar through our usual social media channels, so stay connected with us and register if you're able to. And we'll save all the discussions and all the questions in the chat box, and this webinar is recorded. We will we'll make the presentations available to you through our website. It will be translated into English and Spanish. So stay connected with us, and there's much more to do, and we look forward to collaborating and staying in touch and being part of this global movement to promote gender equality, to promote healthy masculinities, to end gender-based violence in ways that are feminist informed, that work in collaboration and solidarity with human rights, social justice movements. And so yes, thank you so much for all of your participation and your thoughtful questions and comments. And we look forward to seeing you again. And perhaps, Tom, can you unmute everyone's microphones and we'll have a chance to say goodbye.
Right.
Yes, so go ahead.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Again, keep up the great work.
It's a great.
Gracias.
Congratulations to the organizer. Bye bye.
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 Y de verdad, yo sé que estás preocupada, pero no tienes de qué preocupar. Digo, perdón que te eche porras, pero no.
Allah Hafiz.
Bye bye.
Goodbye to all.
Bye.
Great presentations. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Stay safe.
Stay well.
Stay safe and well.